Philip Innes Fraser was born on January 3, 1965, in Anchorage, Alaska, to Robert and Shirley Fraser, who were both well-known physicians in the area. Philip had a passion for playing the violin and spending time outdoors. After high school, he enrolled at his father's alma mater, Western Maryland College, which was over 4,000 miles away. However, his love for the outdoors soon made him homesick, and he moved back to Alaska. He then enrolled in the pre-med program at Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. On June 14, 1988, 23-year-old Philip began the 2,300-mile drive from Alaska to Washington in his old Volkswagen Jetta, taking along 2 firearms for protection. Unbeknownst to him, a horrifying nightmare awaited. About 5 hours into the trip, his Jetta broke down near Tark, Alaska. He notified his parents, who were concerned, but he assured them he could handle the situation. Once his car was fixed, he continued on his way. 3 days later, on June 17, he crossed into Canada's Yukon Territory, where Canadian customs officers confiscated his firearms, as American visitors are not allowed to bring guns across the border. The next day, about 600 miles south of the border checkpoint, Philip was seen at the 40-mile Flat Cafe. A strange hitchhiker entered the restaurant, and the owner, Gay Frockledge, and her daughter, Tina, noted that he looked like he might have escaped from a mental facility. After the man ate and left, they saw him approach what appeared to be Philip's black Jetta. They saw Philip searching for something in his car when the hitchhiker approached. It seemed like Philip drove off a little but then stopped, possibly reconsidering his decision and finally giving the hitchhiker a ride. Tina remarked to her mother that Philip would most likely regret that decision. The next day, a couple, Eddie and Pauline Olson, encountered a hitchhiker who initially appeared to be Philip. They stopped to help, and the man claimed to be the son of doctors from Alaska, heading to college in Seattle. The Olson noted that the man appeared nervous, likely due to being picked up by strangers late at night. They offered to tow his car and let him sleep in their basement for the night. The next morning, the man offered to sell Eddie the car, but Eddie only agreed if they could take it through customs on Monday. The man refused to wait. Strangely, when the man reached for his wallet to pay them, he pulled out 2 wallets and began acting strangely. He gave Eddie $20 to fix the car and left. Within an hour after the broken fan belt was replaced, Philip's black Volkswagen Jetta was found burned out at a car wash in Prince George, British Columbia. Authorities discovered that the car belonged to Philip, but he was nowhere to be found. All his belongings were missing and have never been recovered. 6 weeks later, Philip's decomposed body was found near the Glacier Highway, 70 miles from where the Olson lived. Investigators determined that he had been shot to death not long after picking up the hitchhiker at the 40-mile Flat Cafe. The Olson had most likely encountered the hitchhiker, not Philip. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police launched a full investigation and believed the hitchhiker learned as much as he could about Philip before murdering him. He then assumed Philip's identity, gutted the car, and set it on fire. It is possible that he continued using Philip's identity since he stole his birth certificate, passport, and checkbook. Unfortunately, it has been over 35 years since Philip's murder, and as of July 2024, the case remains unsolved. Jonathan Fraser was born on May 11, 1995, in Honolulu, Hawaii. The last time he was seen was on the morning of July 30, 2016, at his apartment around 9:30 a.m. Just over a week later, on August 8, his gray 1994 Honda hatchback, bearing the Hawaii license plate SXC021, was found near the intersection of Summer Street and KLY Road. His family is convinced that Jonathan did not leave voluntarily and believes foul play is involved. Jonathan studied at Castle High School, although he did not graduate. Standing at 5 feet 7 inches and weighing approximately 150 pounds, he had a passion for the ocean, enjoying shoreline fishing and boogie boarding. Jonathan also had a keen interest in working on cars and eventually got into street and outlaw racing. He enjoyed smoking marijuana and playing football. Despite his love for the sport and having a good arm, academic challenges prevented him from joining his high school team. Jonathan had a special bond with his pit bull, who was incredibly important to him. While he faced his struggles and was far from perfect, his family remembers him as a quiet and respectful individual. He was not an aggressive person but could stand up for himself when necessary. Despite his reserved nature, once he got to know someone, he would open up and engage in conversation. However, on November 17, 2015, Caleb Misk, the son of Michael Misk Jr., who is a well-known businessman in Hawaii, Caleb was involved in a serious car accident with Jonathan Fraser in Kaneohe, Hawaii. According to the investigation, Caleb was driving the car at high speed, with Fraser in the front passenger seat, when they collided with another vehicle on Kaneohe Bay Drive. Both Caleb and Fraser were severely injured and hospitalized. Fraser eventually recovered enough to be discharged, but he still experienced mental and physical pain and fatigue. Unfortunately, Caleb did not survive and died in the hospital on March 12, 2016. Unfortunately, on the evening of July 30, 2016, at about 9:30 p.m., Fraser and his 1994 Honda Civic were reported missing from his apartment at 6233 Keokea Place, apartment number 101 in Honolulu. His family and close friends last saw him that morning around 9:30 a.m. The authorities opened a missing person investigation, but Fraser and his car are still missing. The 1994 Honda Civic was registered under Hawaii Partners LLC, one of Misk's businesses. On July 31, 2016, the Honolulu Police Department, HPD, interviewed confidential one witness, a close friend of Fraser and his family. He said the apartment where Fraser was staying had been rented by Misk for his daughter-in-law, Delia Misk, Caleb's widow. Mike had allowed Fraser and his girlfriend, Ashley Wong, to live there with Delia. Witness mentioned that Caleb and Fraser were good friends before Caleb's death, and Delia and Wong were also close friends. The witness also said that Misk and his family did not believe Caleb was driving during the accident. Misk openly expressed to friends and family that he believed Fraser was driving and responsible for the crash that led to Caleb's death. On the same day, HPD interviewed confidential witness, another close friend of Fraser and his family. He said that during hospital visits, Misk openly blamed Fraser for the accident. Misk and his family even forbade Fraser from attending Caleb's funeral, believing he was responsible. However, after the funeral, Misk visited Fraser's family and blamed the hospital for Caleb's death. Despite this, Misk's family continued to threaten Fraser. Interestingly, despite initially blaming Fraser for his son's death, Misk allowed Fraser and his girlfriend to stay in the apartment rented for Delia. On August 7, 2016, Fraser's Honda Civic was found near 6233 Keokea Place, close to the intersection of Summer Street and Kuliu Road in Honolulu. The car was secured and unattended. These events show the complicated relationships and tension surrounding Fraser's disappearance, with suspicions of foul play lingering over the case. Jonathan's girlfriend, Ashley Wong, says he didn't know anyone in the area where his car was found. Since he disappeared, no one has seen or heard from him. His family says Jonathan was looking forward to becoming a dad and wasn't depressed. Overall, he was excited about his future when he went missing. However, in July 2017, Michael John Misk Jr. was arrested and charged with several serious crimes related to Jonathan Fraser's case. These charges included murder in aid of racketeering, conspiracy to murder for hire resulting in death, kidnapping using interstate facilities resulting in death, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping using interstate facilities. Investigators believe that for years, Misk used his pest control business as the headquarters for his criminal activities. These activities allegedly included drug trafficking, abduction, murder for hire, robbery, extortion, money laundering, and bank fraud. 10 of his associates were also arrested, facing charges such as drug and gun offenses, armed robbery, extortion, and participating in a racketeering conspiracy. A photo of Misk is included with this summary. Authorities suspect he ran a large criminal network under the cover of his legitimate business, involving himself and his associates in many illegal activities. Interestingly, Michael John Misk Jr. is also linked to another missing person case involving Rick Calhoun, who disappeared from Kaneohe, Hawaii, in 1996. Misk and Calhoun were friends and co-defendants in a criminal case. Although Misk's involvement in Calhoun's disappearance has not been proven, the connection raises suspicions. However, Michael John Misk is currently awaiting trial for Jonathan Fraser's death. If found guilty, he could face the death penalty. Despite extensive searches, Fraser's body has never been found. However, due to the suspicious circumstances surrounding his disappearance, foul play is strongly suspected. Christopher Dale Gregory was born on March 23, 1984, to Tony and Rhonda Gregory. In 2006, 21-year-old Chris was living with his parents in Russell Springs, Kentucky. On January 31, 2006, Chris told his mother he was going to hang out with friends at an apartment just outside of Russell Springs. That evening was the last time Rhonda ever saw her son. When Chris failed to return home and did not answer his phone, his mother reported him missing. Investigators spoke with his friends, who confirmed that Chris had been at the apartment but said he left around 9:30 p.m., mentioning he was going to meet someone at the Key Village shopping center. Chris's green 1997 Pontiac Grandam was found that same day in the shopping center's parking lot, in front of the bowling alley. A couple of months later, his driver's license and other documents were discovered alongside a road about 6 miles south in Jamestown, Kentucky. Unfortunately, these clues did not lead to his whereabouts. Rumors about what happened to Chris often involved drugs. The chief of police has identified 4 persons of interest who allegedly know exactly what happened to Chris that night. These individuals were brought in for police interviews and initially agreed to take polygraph tests, but after consulting with attorneys, they all backed out. Police found blood on the shoes of 2 suspects, but they needed DNA samples from both of Chris's parents for comparison. Chris's father has refused to cooperate and has reportedly been on the run for years. Sadly, very little information is available, and as of July 2024, Chris Gregory remains missing, with his case still unsolved. Please share your thoughts and any information you might have in the comments below. Christina Ace was born on April 26, 1962, in Argentina. She was known for her kind and positive nature, always seeing the best in people. After completing her secondary education, Christina earned a degree in biochemistry. In the mid-2000s, she moved to the United States. Her first job in the US was as a cook at a nursing home, but she soon transitioned to working in medical records. During this time, she continued her education, ultimately earning a bachelor's degree in nursing followed by a Doctor of Medical Science degree. By 2024, 61-year-old Christina had become the director of nursing at Roslyn Care Center in Beslan, Oregon. She was married to Annabelle Diaz, and they lived together in an apartment in Vancouver, Washington. Christina seemed to be enjoying the best years of her life. On the morning of March 26, 2024, Christina left for work at 6:30 a.m., as usual, bidding farewell to her husband. For minutes later, she sent a text to her co-workers Amy and Nicole's mother, who also worked at the care center, saying she would be about 20 minutes late. However, by 8:30 a.m., there was still no sign of Christina at work. Concerned, her co-workers tried calling and texting her but received no response. They then informed Christina's boss, who called Annabelle. Surprised to hear that Christina had said she would be late, Annabelle reported her missing. Shortly afterward, two of her co-workers found Christina's 2013 dark grey Toyota RAV4 parked just 150 feet from her apartment complex. Inside the car, investigators found duct tape and a white powdery residue, which appeared to be a cleaning agent, covering several surfaces. The rearview mirror was out of its normal position as if it had been hit. Missing from the vehicle were Christina's cell phone and purse. At around 10 a.m., Christina's phone pinged about 10 to 12 miles south of her apartment, near Southeast Flavel Street and Southeast 92nd Avenue, an area close to Glenwood Park. It's believed that Christina had visited this area multiple times in the past, as it was on her way to work. After this ping, her phone was likely turned off. Investigators noted that she had previously told her employer she would be 20 minutes late on February 27th, March 1st, and March 5th, suggesting a pattern. The route Christina took on March 26th, between 6:48 a.m. and 10 a.m., showed that she moved between Glenwood Park and possibly a nearby home. The fact that her vehicle reappeared near her apartment complex suggests that if foul play was involved, the suspect likely knew where she lived. Questions remain about what happened to Christina. Was she carjacked while at the park? If so, why was she there? Or is her disappearance linked to someone closer to home? Despite these questions, as of July 2024, Christina has not been found, and her case remains unsolved. James Martin Roberts was born on August 19, 1996, to parents John and Kimberly. Known for being kind, loving, and respectful, Martin was passionate about sports during his school years. He played baseball and football but primarily focused on soccer, even becoming the captain of his high school soccer team. After high school, he enrolled at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, aiming to earn a business degree. However, Martin's promising future took a sudden turn during his sophomore year. In the spring of 2016, Martin got a job as a dishwasher at the Daniel Boone Inn. He called his dad on Monday, April 18, 2016, excited about receiving his first paycheck, and promised to call back on Tuesday or Wednesday to share the amount. Sadly, that call never came. On the evening of Tuesday, April 19, 2016, Martin went to the Klondike bar with his fraternity brothers to play trivia. The next day, he did not call his dad as expected. It was known that Martin was not great with cell phones, often breaking them due to the lack of a protective case, and he was unreliable in responding to texts. Despite not calling his dad on Wednesday, April 20th, his roommate saw him that day. The following morning, around 10:30 a.m., Martin had breakfast at their apartment and told his roommates he was heading to the library. He packed a water bottle in his backpack and left, and that was the last time they saw him. Around lunchtime, Martin ran into his cousin, who also attended the university. They walked together to the local free bus, Apple Cart. Martin mentioned his plans for the next semester and said he was heading to his fraternity house. After the bus arrived, they parted ways. Later that afternoon, around 4 p.m., two of his fraternity brothers went to his apartment to check on him because he had unexpectedly dropped out of the fraternity chat group the day before. They found it odd and wanted to know why, but Martin was not home. They tried texting him, but he did not respond. On the morning of Friday, April 22, 2016, Martin's father called the landlord and asked him to check on Martin. The landlord contacted Martin's roommates, who checked his room but found no sign of him. However, they discovered a note on his desk stating that he was leaving everyone behind. The note expressed his disappointment in himself for not taking advantage of the opportunities his parents had given him, but it did not reveal his plans or mention any intention of self-harm. Concerned, the roommates called Martin's father and read the note to him, prompting his father and stepmother to drive to the college immediately. The roommates also contacted the police and reported Martin missing. When investigators arrived, they found Martin's laptop, iPad, cell phone, and wallet in his room. His bank records showed no unusual withdrawals. They also found antidepressants in his room, which he was not prescribed, and investigators have never determined where or from whom he got them. A few months earlier, on the first day back at college for his sophomore year, Martin had been arrested for a DWI after drinking too much at a fraternity party. He lost his driver's license and had to get an identification card, which was missing along with him. After his arrest, his father and stepmother took him home, and he decided to take a semester off. He got a job at a local restaurant owned by a family friend and returned to college in January 2016, moving into an apartment instead of a dorm. For months later, he disappeared. When Martin's cousin learned he was missing, she went to his roommates for answers and discovered he had told two different stories. He said he was heading to the library, but he told her he was going to the fraternity house. Investigators obtained footage of Martin walking away from the bus stop, but it did not help locate him. A fellow student reported seeing him about an hour and a half later on Fleener Fork Road, between Winkler's Creek and Payne Branch Road, possibly heading towards Trout Lake, a known student hangout. This location was over a 2-hour walk from campus, and there were 2 more sightings of him in the same area, making the sightings credible. Investigators also uncovered surprising information. Martin was not enrolled in classes at Appalachian State University but was taking online courses at a local community college. His grades were good until he suddenly stopped logging in about a month before his disappearance. He had also told his family he was working multiple jobs, but none of the places he applied to had hired him, including the Daniel Boone Inn. What happened to Martin remains a mystery. Did he go for a hike and get lost? Did he catch a ride with the wrong person? Or did he start a new life in a beach town which he was known to love? Sadly, it has been over 8 years since he was last seen, and as of July 2024, Martin Roberts remains missing. Preston Chase Peaks was born on July 13, 1990, and unfortunately grew up in a household where his parents were addicted to drugs. Following in their footsteps, Preston also struggled with drug addiction and had a few run-ins with the law. Despite his troubles, he was known to be a very likable person. By 2021, 30-year-old Preston was a father of 2, living in Reform, Alabama. Earlier that year, Preston took his grandfather's truck without permission, leading to a police chase. He eventually abandoned the truck and fled on foot, but was later caught and arrested. On February 14, Preston had a heated argument with his father. The next day, he left his parents' home on foot, with no money, phone, or credit card, and has not been seen since. Initially, his mother, Paige Fields, thought Preston was trying to evade the police. However, after a couple of weeks without any contact, she reported him missing, as he had never gone more than a week without reaching out to her. The police did not take his disappearance seriously, forcing his family to conduct their searches. They scoured multiple properties and enlisted cadaver dogs from the Polyclaws Foundation, but found nothing. Eventually, a man named Rusty Speed became a suspect. Allegedly, Rusty murdered Preston over drugs and then burned down the house he was living in, just before going to jail on unrelated charges. Rusty was charged with arson, but investigators never searched the site for clues related to Preston's disappearance. Some believe Preston was murdered inside the home, which is why Rusty allegedly burned it down. The wife of one of Preston's friends even told Preston's mother that her husband had killed him and hidden the body, but she refused to go to the police with the information. There is now a $6,000 reward for any information leading to Preston's whereabouts, dead or alive. Sadly, as of July 2024, Preston has never been found, and the case remains unsolved. Carla Vicentini was born on August 29, 1983, as the eldest of three daughters to Tanya and Orlando Santini. Growing up in a small agricultural town named Coyote in Parana, Brazil, she developed a close bond with her parents. Carla's upbringing in a tight-knit community likely contributed to her friendly and trusting nature. Carla was very close to her family. She was friendly and trusting, likely because she grew up in a small community. People described her as kind-hearted and full of life. In Brazil, Carla was studying to become an engineer at university. She was bright and hardworking. She wanted to join a student exchange program in the US to learn more about textile engineering. After saving money, she joined an exchange program through the World Study Agency in Brazil. Carla's parents threw her a going-away party before she left for the US. She planned to stay for 8 weeks, but her visa allowed her to stay for 5 months. She flew to the US on January 19, 2006. The agency booked her into the Roxbury Circle Motel in Ledgewood, New Jersey. The motel had poor living conditions. Carla got a job at a White Castle restaurant in Andover, New Jersey. She likely used public transport or got rides from friends to get to work. At the motel, she met another exchange student named Meda Eduardo. They both disliked the motel and wanted to find better places to live and work. After a couple of weeks, Carla called home to tell her father about her situation. Her father's client and friend, Jose Madara Martinez Vernon, offered to let Carla and Meda stay in his apartment in Newark, New Jersey. Jose was 75 years old and had lived in Newark for many years. He offered them his living room in exchange for help with housework. Carla moved in on February 4th and Meda joined 2 days later. Jose's son, who lived locally, helped Carla get a new job at the Mediterranean Manor, a venue for large events on Jefferson Street. Meda also found a job nearby, making their new living situation convenient. Carla's parents reported that, during this period, she sounded very happy over the phone. However, just 22 days after arriving in the US, Carla disappeared. On February 9, 2006, both girls had work. Carla went to work at the Mediterranean Manor and later joined Meda at her new workplace, the Adega Grill on Ferry Street, a lively bar. Witnesses reported seeing Carla chatting with a man named Antonio, described as being in his 30s, stocky, with blue eyes and grey hair. Meda did not trust him and warned Carla, but Carla did not listen. Carla was last seen stepping outside the bar with Antonio around 2:30 a.m. She was wearing a white sleeveless shirt, a blue Hugo Boss jacket, either blue or white jeans, light brown ankle boots, a sports wristwatch on her left wrist, a silver ring on her ring finger, and 2 silver rope necklaces. After her disappearance, the FBI found Carla's jacket and handbag with her passport and wallet at the apartment, with no signs of struggle. This indicated she had likely returned home before vanishing. Suspicion initially fell on Jose Fernandez and his son, but many believe they were innocent and had no involvement in Carla's disappearance. Little is known about the man with whom Vicentini left the bar that fateful night. Federal investigators said he is described as a white male, approximately 30 years old, of unknown nationality. He is about 5 feet 8 inches tall and 200 pounds, with a stocky build, fair complexion, light eyes, and salt and pepper short hair. Carla Vicentini's mother, Tanya, said, "I need to know what happened to her. I want to bring her home, whether it means a rescue or recovery. I'm not ready to accept recovery as the only option right now." In 2015, the FBI offered a $20,000 reward for information on Carla's case, launching a multimedia campaign and placing digital billboards in the Newark area. Despite these efforts, Carla's disappearance remains unsolved, and her family continues to seek answers. Anyone with information about her is urged to call 973-792-3000. Crystal Ann Tymich was born on September 23, 1987. She lived in the Hyde Park neighborhood of South Central Los Angeles. On June 30, 1994, 6-year-old Crystal was picking peaches from a neighbor's tree along with her brothers. This took place sometime between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. After a while, her brothers went back inside their house, leaving Crystal outside alone. A few minutes later, they returned to call her inside, but Crystal had vanished without a trace. When the police arrived, an extensive search operation was immediately launched. This effort included participation from neighbors, close to 100 police officers, and agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. Simultaneously, the City Council offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to Crystal's safe return, hoping to encourage tips from the public. That afternoon, a localized tactical alert was issued, requiring all on-duty law enforcement personnel to remain on shift to aid in the search efforts until the alert was lifted. The search persisted through the night, with officers and community members working tirelessly to find Crystal. The localized tactical alert was eventually lifted at around 4:30 a.m. on the morning of July 1st, marking the end of the initial search phase. Unfortunately, detailed information about the search efforts from the remainder of 1994 through 1995 is scarce. In March 1996, about 9 months after Crystal's disappearance, a new reward of $25,000 was announced in hopes of encouraging someone to come forward with crucial information. Sadly, this reward offer expired on May 5, 1996, as it went unclaimed, as stipulated in the March announcement. Despite the initial surge of activity and the subsequent reward, no significant leads emerged during that period. Crystal's case regained public attention in August 2005 when a significant search operation was conducted at a neighbor's house. This house, located directly across the street from where Crystal's family lived at the time of her disappearance, was thoroughly examined by numerous law enforcement officials. The search was prompted by a tip about a suspicious burial of an animal that reportedly occurred shortly after Crystal went missing. Unfortunately, the search only uncovered animal bones on the property. Today, law enforcement officials remain committed to finding Crystal and keeping her case in the public eye. Crystal's family continues their relentless search for their loved one. A $10,000 reward is still being offered for any information leading to Crystal's return or to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her disappearance. When Crystal Ann Tymich disappeared in 1994, she was 6 years old, standing 4 feet tall and weighing 60 pounds. She had blonde hair and hazel eyes. Crystal was last seen wearing a pink t-shirt, floral print shorts, and white tennis shoes featuring The Little Mermaid. If alive today, Crystal would be 34 years old and has tragically been missing for nearly 28 years. If you have any information about her disappearance, please contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the FBI, or the Los Angeles Police Department at 213-485-4175 or your local FBI office. Cecilia Elizabeth Newball, a 32-year-old expectant mother, was last seen by her husband, Alfredo Newball, on September 20, 1994. Cecilia and Alfredo had been together for 2 years before marrying, and Cecilia was 8 months pregnant when she vanished. On the day of her disappearance, Cecilia was writing thank you notes for her baby shower gifts when Alfredo left for his afternoon shift as a nurse's aide. Alfredo called Cecilia about 2.5 hours into his shift, but she didn't answer. Initially, he wasn't too concerned, thinking she might be visiting friends or family. However, as evening approached and Cecilia still hadn't responded to his calls, Alfredo grew worried and decided to leave work early to check on her. When Alfredo arrived home, he noticed Cecilia's car parked on the street instead of in its usual spot in the building's secure car park. Inside their apartment, Cecilia and her 6-year-old son from a previous marriage, René Perez Jr., were missing. There were no signs of a struggle or a break-in, and it seemed like they had vanished into thin air. Their belongings, including René's necessary glasses, were still in the apartment. In Cecilia's Jeep, Alfredo found a goodbye greeting card signed by Cecilia, along with her wedding and engagement rings on the passenger seat. The card provided no helpful information about her whereabouts. Alarmed, Alfredo contacted Cecilia's friend, Kevin Annabelle, but Kevin had no information about her and found Alfredo unusually calm during the call. However, the next day, Cecilia's worried relatives contacted the Lapt. Detective Alex Valdez noted Alfredo's lack of concern over the phone. 2 days after Cecilia's disappearance, Alfredo received a letter postmarked from Venice, California. It contained another goodbye card identical to the one found in the Jeep and a typewritten letter signed by Cecilia, claiming she had run off with a doctor named Arturo and was moving to Honduras with René. The letter suggested that the unborn baby might be Arturo's child, but Alfredo and Cecilia's friends believed the letter wasn't written by her. It was believed by detectives that a third party was involved. 6 months before she disappeared, Cecilia received a call from a woman claiming to have footage of Alfredo kissing another woman at a baby shower. The woman wanted to show Cecilia the footage, but the follow-up call never came. A few weeks before she vanished, another woman, claiming to be Alfredo's co-worker, contacted Cecilia about a surprise baby shower and baby furniture. Cecilia agreed to meet this woman on the day she disappeared. Investigators later discovered that no such baby shower was planned, and the woman wasn't a colleague of Alfredo's. However, Detective Valdez suspected Alfredo might know more about Cecilia's disappearance than he admitted, although Alfredo has consistently maintained his innocence, believing his wife left voluntarily. Friends of Cecilia noted that there were no apparent problems in their marriage and that Cecilia wouldn't leave without warning. Cecilia Newball, born Cecilia Amaya in El Salvador, is a Hispanic female with black hair, brown eyes, and pierced ears, standing between 4 feet 11 inches and 5 feet 0 inches tall. She was 8 months pregnant when last seen. Her son, René Perez Jr., is described as a Hispanic male with brown hair and brown eyes, standing 3 feet 6 inches tall and weighing 70 pounds. He was missing his top teeth and wore glasses, which were left behind. If still alive, Cecilia would be 61 years old and René would be 35. Anyone with information about their disappearance is urged to contact the Lapt Missing Persons Unit at 213-996-1800. On June 20, 1987, hikers discovered skeletal remains 13 miles north of the US 50 and Phantom Canyon Road intersection in Fremont County, Colorado. The remains belonged to a female who had been buried under a pile of rocks. A short piece of rope tied into a loop with a square knot was found with the remains, suggesting it was used to bind her hands. Due to tissue still being present on the skeletal remains, it was estimated she had been dead for 7 to 12 months. The coroner rehydrated her hand tissue and found a rose tattoo with a stem and 2 leaves. It was determined she had been stabbed to death, and the case was ruled a homicide. The woman was fully clothed and had 6 rings on her hands, including a mother's ring, an emerald diamond ring, a cameo ring, and a beaded necklace. There was also a safety pin with a key, a lapel pin with Lake Arrowhead, California, lip balm, cigarettes, and matches. Her age was estimated to be between 25 and 35 years old. Unfortunately, her identity could not be determined, and she became known as the Fremont County Jane Doe. In December 1988, using a clay reconstruction of her face, investigators thought she might be Monica Hibbs, a woman who went missing from Sunnyvale, California. Monica's father was shown the reconstruction and felt certain it was his daughter, noting that Monica liked to wear rings and had a beaded necklace similar to the one found with Jane Doe. Monica also had a club foot that was corrected as an infant and a bent little finger on her left hand. The next step was to exhume the body and check for these identifying features. When the results from the second autopsy came back, Monica's father was devastated to learn that Jane Doe was not his daughter. Sadly, over 35 years have passed since she was found, and as of July 2024, her identity remains a mystery.